Today we're here at the Salt Lake Community College Admin Instruction Building. I'm Fran Scott with Cummins Rocky Mountain. We're doing training on the backup power system. We're going to start out here at the generator. If you look at the control here, you guys may want to look at this. There's a problem I'm seeing right now with the control. It says we have a shutdown. Does anybody know how to find out why we have a shutdown?
Ask Randy.
Ask Randy. All right, let's ask Fran today. I'm Fran. So, first off, the screen's dead. To wake up the screen, we're going to push one of either the double arrows or the single arrows. And then means we want to find out what this shutdown is. We're going to push more. We're going to go to faults, and then we're going to go to this one that says current. Somebody hit the emergency stop and didn't reset it. Number one question I get on a phone call is somebody has hit the E-stop, the generator won't start. I have them go through what I just told you. They pull the E-stop back out, but then they don't reset it. So to reset it, you have to take this to the 0 position, push the fault acknowledge reset, and then it clears the fault. That is the number one question I get called about. So, how do we reset a fault, guys?
Turn it to the 0 position. Just push the fault acknowledge reset button.
There we go. And then we go back into the automatic mode, and then you're ready to go back to the automatic. I've drove all the way to St. George to do that very thing when I've talked to them on the phone for 2 hours and they couldn't do it. I go down there, they get a $2,000 bill. So you will get billed if we just have to come out and do a reset when you can actually get it done. So basic navigation, what I just taught you. Wake it up by pushing the arrows, either one of the double arrows. You can go to the engine, you can go to the alternator, you can go to more. In the more, they got history, which will give you your number of starts, and it will give you your engine hours, which is 13.2. So obviously this has been exercising because it's got 13 hours on it. Startup, usually you have, I'm assuming this probably had a 4-hour load bank on it and probably had another hour of testing of just miscellaneous stuff. So exercise time, we've obviously been exercising. So with that being said, you should never have to get inside this control inside of here. I'm going to open it up so you can at least see in there. This is your control inside of here. And from what I'm seeing, I'm going to guess your annunciator's not working because it's got the wrong wire in here.
So we re-pull that wire. That wire you're looking at right there is Johnson Controls.
These ones here?
Yeah, no.
That's not Cat 4. That should be Cat 4 for that annunciator to work.
That is Johnson Controls.
Johnson's run these?
Yeah.
Well, that's not going to let the annunciator work.
No, it isn't. I'll have to get a hold of Johnson Control and find out what.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing there because that's supposed to go to the annunciator, not to Johnson Control.
Yeah,
Good old Johnson Control boys.
yeah.
So, model number is sitting up above the control up there. This is a, get my bifocal so I can see, 350 kW generator. Gives us our amperage, gives us our model number, our serial number. So if you want parts, you gotta give that model number and serial number for us to have parts. When you want to see what you're going, when you're on load, you can actually go into the alternator section of this. Then you can scroll down through this. So when you're on the building load, you can actually come out here and you can punch this up on your KW, see how many KW you're actually pulling on your building. Which you want to do that in an Audi sometime just to, me, it'd be a curiosity thing to know what it is we're pulling. By gauging that, you can actually gauge on how much fuel you're going to burn. So you can figure, okay, I'm pulling 150 kW on this. Here it's a 350 kW generator. I can go down through the chart and I can figure out how much fuel I'm going to burn and use for that period of time. And if you want, I got a slide chart that can tell you the approximate amount of fuel and stuff. When we walk out of here, I'll go get it, went out of my truck. Right. So by doing that, you can actually figure that out. You can see your engine oil pressures, your engine temperature, various things like that. Any questions on the control? Okay. This is what we call a floor housing. It's just the type of housing it is that we call it. No specific reason, as far as I know, of why that particular type of housing, or why, if they specified anything of that sort. If you pull this side open here, if you look at the sides of the doors here, we got these little clips on here, which I like very well, because this clip here you can pull back over here. It's not so bad in here because you're in a not very windy environment, but when you're out in the wind, it's nice to have them to lock them open. So with that being said, and also on the doors, if you notice on the doors, they got these little metal pieces here. So you can actually turn these shut, and you can pull these out. You can put a padlock in there if you want to double lock them. Some people want to use that lock and the other lock. Totally up to you guys. This little section right here, you can see there's a hose sitting right here with a plug on the end of it. That's your oil drain. Goes up here, goes to the valve on the oil drain. You can whip that out and you can set it down here off the side so you can drain your oil good. Or we do PM contracts if you want us to do PM contract on it. Your tank has a, where is it? 600 gallon capacity on your fuel tank. That's a question always gets asked. Your fuel fill is the little flapper here that's got the normal flap. Just like a normal fuel fill, there's a place for a padlock on there. There's a gauge to the left of it that tells you how full it is. The gauge is not extremely accurate because it's up out of the tank just a little bit because of the weld-on fitting on this stuff. So usually you're off a little bit. You guys are probably used to that. This cap you're seeing right here, this is what I call an anti-shrapnel vent. It's a emergency blow-off vent, so that in the case of an explosion inside it, rather than the tank bulging in an explosion type thing, this here will blow off, and it's supposed to let out enough gas so it doesn't do that to it. You'll notice, I believe it's on this corner right here I just saw. Yes, on this corner right here, there's another one. The one that's back here is actually for the rupture basin. Rupture basin means that this is a double wall fuel tank, so that if the inner wall ruptures or has a pinhole or whatever, the secondary wall catches the fuel. And if you look right here, there are some alarm wires. This one here, particular one here, is the low fuel alarm. So if you get to somewhere around a half a tank, then that's going to go off and give an alarm saying that we have low fuel. The rupture basin alarm is a separate alarm, which comes in down from the back. It's hard to find and see. That will tell you if you have fuel in the secondary containment area. You have a oil check here. It's yellow, so you can see it pretty easy. This is your fuel inlet line. This is a fuel return line. Fuel return comes out of the engine, goes up, and you'll see this unit has 3 radiators in it. It has a fuel cooling radiator, it has a engine cooling radiator, and it has a air cooling radiator. The reason for the fuel, this one here is the one that goes through the fuel cooling radiator. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look up in here when you get a sec, look around in there, you can see it. It comes out and it cools the fuel before it goes back into the tank, because if you get hot fuel, you don't get as much horsepower. Okay. The other thing is you see this big silver pipe here and the big silver pipe up there. Those are both the air. Most people call them a charge air cooler or a CAC. What that does is they have found that by cooling, the colder you can make the air, the more air you can jam inside a cylinder, which will also give you more horsepower. Okay. So after the turbo, it comes out after the turbo, goes through the air condition, through the air piece, and comes back out. I have had people call me and say, I don't have any, I pulled these lines off and I don't have any coolant in them. We're down low on coolant, but I see coolant up in the radiator. I'm just like, okay, well, did you pull the silver pipes off or did you pull the black pipes off? Silver pipes have no coolant in them whatsoever. Okay? So, got a fuel filter here. You got an electric fuel pump here that actually you'll hear if it, when you change this fuel filter, first time you crank it, you're going to hear it go. We do not recommend for you to fill that fuel filter when you put that fuel filter on. The new tolerances inside this engine are so tight, if you get any dirt and stuff inside the fuel system, then you're going to end up taking out injectors, fuel pumps, all that good happy stuff. So first time you crank it, it's going to want to try to fire, then it's not going to fire, then you can hear this pump will be going. That's normal. What that's doing is actually sucking out of the tank, going up, filling your fuel filler, and it'll bleed itself off. Do not try to crack a fuel injector line. This one here you can't anyway. But for your safety's sake for later on, if you guys got any of the newer engines that have a common rail system like in the Cummins truck, do not crack the fuel injector line because it has 22,000 PSI of power. It used to be 2,200 PSI. So you can crack the injection lines, you don't get hurt. But 22,000 PSI, the fuel can penetrate your skin and poison you, and you will not see a hole in your skin. It'll just look like you got fuel in your skin, but it'll penetrate your skin and give you blood poisoning and kill you within a couple hours. I mean, you got no time. So just don't do it. Engine oil fills right here. Got to use the funnel to get your engine in, get your fuel into it. This is, I believe, let me crawl up here and find out for sure, but I believe this is a 15 liter. Yes, this is a QSX 15. This is the same engine they run in the over-the-road trucks nowadays. Holds 23 gallons of oil. The oil manufacturers tell us that all oil drains down out of the engine in 8 days, so you should be running this at least once a week on your exercise time. If you don't, you could possibly be grabbing a piston because this engine comes up to 1,800 RPM instantaneously. Right behind here is what we call the engine ECM. I believe that's the ECM. If not, it's on the other side. The engine ECM, when you change batteries, and once again, I'm going to stress this because if you change batteries and you don't follow this procedure, you can take out an engine ECM, which is like $3,500. Okay, so when you change the batteries, first thing you want to do is hit the E-stop, turn it to 0. Go find the battery charger wherever it's at. I don't know where it's at right now. Turn off the battery charger. Then you can safely disconnect the batteries and hook up the batteries. If you do it before then, you can send a spike back in through the control, because this has the E-stop and the control has a constant switch B plus going to the engine ECM, just like the key in your car. So your key's turned on all the time, just wait for somebody to tell it to start. So with that being said, is if your battery charger is still turned on and you just pull that wire off, what's your battery charger going to do? It's going to try to charge more. So it's going to send a spike through it. So by sending that spike through it, it's going to go wherever it can go. The engine ECM is an electronic component. It don't like spikes. So that we don't want to do. So that's the other reason you need to know how to reset the E-stop, is because you're going to hit the E-stop to shut it down to change your batteries. Questions on that? You guys aren't very lively this morning. I realize it's Monday. But. Back here in the back, we got the other side of the generator, which we call the right side of the generator, because we're always looking at the back of the generator when we're talking about left and right. We have 2 breakers, which leads me to believe we have 2 transfer switches. Is that correct, Randy? Correct. So we have 2 transfer switches inside the building somewhere. If you look kind of right in the side here, you can see the battery charger. We'll look in through this other door and you might be able to see it a little bit better. So here's your actual battery charger. On the front side of it, you can actually see some faults or lights, whatever you want to call them. Status
Let's
lights.
open this one up.
Just
Twist it. There we go. Okay. I need training on the handles.
So you have status lights on here. and you'll see that it flashes back and forth. It goes from amperage to voltage. To change those, you can actually pull these 4 screws off and go inside, and you can actually change if you want your battery voltage a little bit higher. It's a multi-tap voltage. Also, you can either do 220 or 115 if you ever need one in the future for something else. If your red light comes on, it tells me your block heater's not coming on. Now, something I'm going to ask Randy to do here. Oh, he's already got it marked right here. OP1-8. That's going to be where your circuit breaker is for that feeds the charger. And I see over here he's got OP1-10. That's going to feed your block heater. This component right here is your block heater, and as you notice, it says hot service can cause. I always just barely bump it. You do always want that warm. Otherwise, that should be sending a signal somewhere saying that you got a low engine temperature. Okay. As you see here, we got 2 8D batteries. These are 1400 cold cranking amps. If you don't put full 1400 cold cranking amps, you can get a fault code 1117 on the control. So if you ever change the batteries, don't go with the El Cheapos and get the 1000 cranking amps or the 1250 cranking amps, because you'll get that fault code and you'll wonder why. It'll still start, but you're going to get that fault code, and it's more of an irritating code than anything. Starter motor, you got the fuses here. So far, knock on wood, I've never had one of these fuses blow on me, but they are there obviously for certain reasons. Oil filter, coolant filter. Got a coolant filter here. Reason for a coolant filter is 2 things. One is it puts a corrosion inhibitor into the cooling system all the time, because it actually has a what we call DCA inside it. Then it also has a filter itself that actually filters the stuff out, which is to keep the corrosion down inside the engine, keeps cavitation off the cylinder liners. All around, it's just a very good thing. We suggest you change that once a year along with the oil filter and the fuel filter. Keep everything good and fresh. You have 2 shutoff valves on your block heater. There's one on the upper side, there's one on the lower side. If you shut those 2 off, you need to be turning off the block heater. If you don't, it's going to sit there and cook, and you're going to end up burning out your block heater. You have 2 thermostats for the block heater. This thermostat right here is the actual thermostat that turns the block heater off and on. Should keep you somewhere around 130 degrees max on the control. So if you go there, open up the control, push the engine, and you saw it was sitting at like 133 degrees right now. That's about where it should be sitting all the time. If you look on the side of the block heater, right here there is another thermostat. That's the secondary thermostat that shuts off like at 160 degrees. So if this one's not shutting it off, that one should be shutting it off. So if you see temperatures over there that's above your 130 degrees, somewhere around 160 degrees, that's why. It's because this thermostat is bad. It's an easy, quick troubleshooting component. Like I said, the black tube is coolant for the radiator. You got the other black tube that's up here that's also coolant. Unless you get way back there or stand up on the tank, up on top of the tank on top of the radiator, there's a little sight glass. It's about 3/4 of an inch, the glass itself. It has coolant in it. You want the coolant to be about in the middle of the glass. If you fill it all the way to the top of the glass, next week's going to be back down because it's going to piss it all out because it heated up and it shot it out the bottom. So you always want it down about the middle of the glass. There's also a coolant level switch up there. The reason for the coolant level switch is if you were to blow that block heater, you're going to lose all your coolant. Well, if it didn't have the coolant level switch to shut it down, then your engine is going to try to run and it's going to fry it, because the coolant temperature sensors, if they're not immersed in coolant, they do not give an accurate reading whatsoever. So consequently, we put in a coolant level shutdown switch to shut them off, so that you don't burn down the engine. Hospitals, we set them at warnings. Everybody else, we set them at shutdown. Because hospitals, they want them to keep running until, if you're on the table, they want you to take care of it. So, I believe this is called a conduit bender. I'm not sure what we're gonna do with the generator, but I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna beat somebody with it. That's what we're gonna do.
Somebody. But I got to drive to Vegas to do it.
Yeah. So
Is that bad or good?
if you guys kind of look inside the radiator right there, you can see what I'm talking about the three different radiators. You got like a left half, a right half, and then you got the little one that sits back there on the side. The one radiator that you're seeing over the inside there, the one that's going to be on the left side of the genset, if you can actually see the cores are, instead of being really fine like an 1/8 inch thick like a normal radiator is, you're going to see that they're like a 1/4 inch thick. That's so the air can actually flow through the radiator at a good pace. So, any questions on what we got here so far? You're going to notice on the end of this that we have. Suck it in, buddy. Suck it in. If you look up in the end right here, you can actually see that's the muffler itself. This right there. There should be a flapper up there somewhere. I can't see it. This is an air chute. We put these on to shoot the air vertical up, of which we got a blockage there. I don't know how much that actually is going to affect it or not. Obviously, you load banked it and the load bank passed. I would have been concerned when I would have started this is because the opening in the back isn't as big as the opening on the generator, which it should be, to get your maximum airflow through it. So it must have pulled air in down from here. This here actually takes the air and scoops it up and shoots it straight up in the air. So it does that there. I don't know how these two interaction is going to react. With all this water here, in the past when I've seen this much water by these, this ends up getting a lot of corrosion. So now I don't see that you can do a whole lot about it, but unless you guys as the facility engineers can think of something that you've done in the past for something similar, I don't know what else you could do, because this here is obviously going to have a ton of water in it. So you're going to want to probably keep your eyes on this here for any type of corrosion stuff and catch it early on. Any questions? All right, let's go to the transfer switches then, I guess. All right, we got two transfer switches. We're going to in the basement. We got a MDH, fed from MDH transfer switch. This is ATS-S. That's ATS-E. They're the same transfer switch, different amperages. These are both what we call the OTEC transfer switch control. Basic parts of transfer switch. If you ever have to manually transfer this, you need to turn off the generator, turn off utility power, grab the upper handle, move it to the center, grab the lower handle, move it to the center. Never use both handles at the same time because the bar will never end up being where it's supposed to be. So, this particular transfer switch is a 300 amp transfer switch. To program this control, there's a little switch. In fact, let me see if you left the plastic card in there or something put it out. Alright, Randy must have taken it on and explained it. Normally when we do a startup, when I do a startup, we slide a little plastic card right here, and then it tells us how to program this. We can just grab it right here, we can reprogram it real quick. Flip a little switch that's right underneath this little crossbar right here. And then the front of the panel up here, these lights up here are going to go red. You'll use the test button to set the 5 on the left side. You use the override button to set the 3 on the right side. What that does is we can set time delay start, time delay stop, time delay transfer, retransfer, our voltage codes, exercise time, test with load, test without load. There's like 25 different things that we can set inside this control. It'll also be in your manuals. means I don't have either one of the cards down here with us. I can't tell you they're out, man. If anybody's really interested in seeing, I can show you the exact pamphlet that I'm telling you about that we usually leave in here. It should have been in those plastic books. So wherever the plastic book's in it, the plastic sack with books in it. I'm assuming you guys get those at the owner's manuals.
They've all been turned over.
What's that?
They've been turned over.
So okay. So Oakland has it, and you guys will get probably a stack about this tall of books for the building.
So we need to go through and program all of that.
No, these have been programmed for whatever was requested from Randy on startup, or from whoever Randy talked to on startup. Obviously, it wasn't me. So normal settings are going to be 2 seconds on start, 2 seconds on transfer. So once the generator comes up, it'll start a transfer. You'll see when the generator starts that this light here will come on, and it'll come on in an amber color, yellow color. You will never see, well, I'm not going to say never. You should never see all 4 of these lights come on at the same time. If you do, you're in deep shut. That means both power sources are connected at the same time. Physically, unless somebody left a bar out of it, there should be no way it can happen. Physically, okay? Right now, what you have on here is this is the utility, this one green light here that's coming from your power company. This here is you being the building, and you are connected to the building. So what's going to happen is if you're in an outage, this light here is going to come on because the generator told it to start in 2 seconds. Then it's going to say that the power was good. 2 seconds later, it's going to say, hey, we're good power. It's going to take this light. This light's going to go out because it's going to pull it out of the connected source, and it's going to move over to this connected source. So usually, like I said, 2 seconds, and 10-minute retransfer time, so it's going to look at this here once this light comes back on for 10 minutes to make sure you have good power. Before it says, okay, we're good power, then it's going to go, this light's going to go out, now that's going to come on and be transferred back. And you're going to hear 2 big clumps when it does that. I did not see an exerciser clock. Don't see one on this one. No, it's not a clock in here. So, in order for you to set an exerciser time in this, which I don't see how we're getting that many hours on it, because the exerciser time has obviously been taken out of it. So, to set your exerciser time, you're going to push the set exercise time. It's going to flash. You're going to hold it till it goes solid. As soon as it goes solid, so if we were to do it right now, which it's got to be, what, 11:15, 11:30? 11:10. It'll go off either right now, or it's going to, the first time you push it, when it flashes and goes solid, it's going to go off 12 hours from now. So it's going to go off 11:10 tonight. If you want it to go off right now while you're standing there, you push it a second time within 10 seconds of the first one to make it go off right then and there. It's going to run for 20 minutes.
So push it, hold it.
It's going to flash. The book says 2 seconds. Exactly, until it stops flashing. Push and hold it until it stops flashing, which I can do it right now if you want. But I don't know if that's going to disturb people or not.
Let's not. Let's set it another time.
Okay, so you're going to push it down. This light right here is going to flash. Then it's going to go solid.
Right.
As soon as it goes solid, let off.
Let off.
And then it'll go 12 hours from that point. If you want it to go right then you push it again. Hold it down for a second or so, and then you should hear it fire up and run. Okay. As soon as it fires up and runs, leave it alone. It's going to go through your. Now, it's either set to. I always set them to exercise without load, because you guys don't ever want to see the power bumps.
Right.
That's one of the settings inside of this control here. Then you can set it to exercise with load or without load. So. Once it goes through that period of time, if you want to override and shut it down, you can push the override button. It doesn't say this anywhere, but this is also a reset button. So if you get one of these lights that's flashing and you don't think it's supposed to flash, if you push the override, it brings it back to the normal state. For instance, failed to transfer. If it fails to transfer, it's going to flash this light right here. It's going to flash saying that it didn't actually transfer. Then you're going to call us and say, what's going on here? Usually the reason it fails to transfer is a micro switch problem. It happens once in a while, not very often, but once in a while. Usually it's because of construction dirt. Because like you saw inside the bottom of the door, there was construction dirt inside there. So it's usually right in the beginning when we have it, usually within the first month or so after startup. Because there's still a lot of construction going on and everything else. And so there'll be dust that ends up getting inside of the micro switch. And there's 4 micro switches up here, 4 micro switches down here inside the main contactor. So we clear on the exercise time. If not, look at the manual, go through it. What else can we go through?
Is it going to go weekly, I guess?
What's that?
Weekly.
You should do it weekly because
Is that something we set or is that something?
They automatically set it for a week.
When you go through the program inside here, when it comes from the factory, it comes as weekly. You can set it 7, 14, 21, or 28 days if you want to.
It should be set for weekly now.
It should be set for weekly now, and it should be set for weekly because the oil manufacturer tells all the oil drains out of the engine, and we don't want to ruin the engine. So I know up at the university they do not run weekly for emissions. Puts up too much smoke into the air. We're going, well, why do we order emission engines and then not run them? Why do emissions then?
It's less to throw.
Because these engines, the Jensen you got is what we call a Tier 4 engine, which is the current for this day. Emissions testing, all good to go. It should smoke very little. If you get any smoke at all, it's going to be on the startup. When it's actually running, it should just be running clear as can be. If it's not running clear, you need to be calling so we can get it figured out and find out what's wrong.
Both switches have that capability of programming.
Yes, you can do both switches. You only want to do one or the other.
But that one has them.
Yes, it has the exact same piece. Both controls. You can, if you guys have a question whether that control is okay and this one is bad, you can actually undo 2 screws on the inside, pop this one out, take it over here, put it in this one, take this one over here, put it in this one. If it was me, I would have set them both up identical, other than maybe program transition. But other than that, you can actually check to see if both of them, where you have an advantage, you can swap parts. You know, it's a good, quick troubleshooting tool to do. It's not always recommended, but because when you pull those off on these green terminals here, you do have live 480. I'm assuming we're 480. You have live 480 sitting on 3 of those terminals because you have wires coming from see those white wires back there? Those white wires back there end up coming into this harness here, come up here and go into here. So with that being said, then caution. This is if you have a battery charger inside here. That we bolt on right here. That one has the same spot for it. Right here is where the little exercise. You can get a programmable exerciser clock for this, $200. And you can set it right here and wire it in, and then you can have it do the same thing. Then you have to reprogram this to tell it that you're using an external clock instead of an internal clock.
So you guys have to program that with a laptop or something?
The exerciser clock itself has got like 10 or 12 pages. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
What about all the other settings? Do you guys use a laptop or something as far as the blade?
not on this. Not on this one.
How does that get programmed?
That's why I was telling you, that's what you flip the switch for. Did you sleep? Was he sleeping?
Apparently.
Did I go through this? Okay.
I was sleeping.
You gotta flip this switch, it's right up underneath here. Then you go to the front here and your lights are gonna go red. You're gonna have 5 on the left and 3 on the right. You go through test, well, it's got a code in it, so if you have 1 dot come up, you're gonna program time delay start, which depending on how many seconds you want, you're gonna have 1, 2, or 3 lights lit. And then you just go down through it. There'll be certain lights lit depending on what it is. That's what the little plastic chart's for. That I always leave on the doors. I don't know why Tyson didn't leave them on the door. But that's how you do it. So no, it's not a laptop. Out there, you can do a couple things without the laptop, but the rest of it, if you want programming different things on that one there, you have to do from the laptop. So laptop, no laptop. Good question. Let me know who sleeps during these things. Any questions from outside the door there? No, we good? You good again?
Okay.
Anything we didn't cover?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, buddy. Guess we're done.